Welcome to today's Explainer. Okay, we are diving straight into the incredibly satisfying, but let's be honest, sometimes completely frustrating world of matcha dusting. We're going to figure out why getting that perfect electric green finish on your latte or pastry isn't just about making it look pretty, it's actually about fundamental science. So let's unpack the physics, the chemistry, and the real artistry behind that flawless reveal.
Let the powder fall evenly, like a soft dusting of snow. I absolutely love starting with this quote from our barista sources because, well, it just perfectly captures that sensory magic, right? When you see a beautifully stenciled pattern on a latte, it really invokes this feeling of true craftsmanship. But getting that powder to actually fall like snow, yeah, that requires a pretty deep understanding of how this ancient ingredient really behaves.
Section 1. The Art of Dusting, Elevating the Coffee Aesthetic. Creating those crisp stencil designs is literally all about precision. First, you absolutely need a smooth, creamy espresso base topped with a velvety milk foam canvas. That's what holds the design. Then, you've got to hold your stencil as close to that foam as humanly possible without actually touching it. Sprinkle your matcha lightly through a sieve, and then, this is the make or break moment, you have to lift that stencil straight up. Seriously, if you drag it even a millimeter, that delicate design is instantly smudged.
Section 2. Why does matcha clump? The hidden physics of green tea.
So the biggest enemy of a beautiful dusting is actually just physics. Think about it. Sugar melts away into water, right? But matcha is literally just finely ground tea leaves, so it doesn't dissolve. Instead, those tiny pieces suspend in the liquid. They naturally want to clump together to kind of protect themselves from the moisture. Honestly, once you understand this one single fact, it changes everything about how you handle the powder. Because it wants to clump. Pretty much any environmental factor is going to trigger those tiny leaf particles to bond together into those frustrating little lumps. We're talking exposure to moisture, getting condensation on it from the fridge, just leaving it in a loose container, or hitting it with high heat. Even just using a lower grade, coarsely milled culinary matcha is naturally going to give you more clumping than a finely milled ceremonial grade.
Section 3. The Science of the Sift. Banishing the lumps.
Okay, so how do we fix it? We know it suspends rather than dissolves, so we actually have to mechanically force it into that smooth suspension. First rule, sifting through a fine mesh sieve is absolutely mandatory, no skipping this. Then you really need to whisk it with a traditional 100-prong bamboo chazin in a nice wide bowl. You need that room for a vigorous zigzag motion. And water temperature is critical here. Use water between 70 to 80 degrees Celsius. Never use boiling water, because you will literally scorch the powder and make the clumping so much worse. And here's the ultimate pro tip. Create a paste first. Just add a tiny splash of water, press out the lumps, and then add the rest of your liquid. Game changer.
Section 4. Spotting quality matcha. The texture test.
Now, your dusting is really only as good as your powder. You could have flawless whisking technique, but if the matcha is subpar, the result will be too. So check out this physical, tactile way to grade it called the stroke test. If you look closely, original, high-quality matcha leaves an incredibly straight, deeply saturated, velvety line when you smear it across paper with your thumb. But industrially processed fakes or lower-quality powders, they leave this sandy, broken, kind of yellowish streak. You can literally feel the difference in how it was milled just by swiping it.
That ultra-fine, vibrant emerald green is exactly what you want to see. High-quality, ceremonial grade uses only the finest, pure pulp of young tea leaves. They actually remove all the veins and stems before grinding. So the finer the grind, and the more electric that green pigment is, the smoother suspension is going to be, which means a flawless final dusting.
Section 5. Dusting and desserts, protecting the pigment and perfecting the finish.
Let's take this out of the cup and into the kitchen. Because baking with matcha introduces a whole new set of scientific rules. Matcha naturally oxidizes, kind of like how an apple turns brown when you cut it. And high heat, anything above 375 degrees Fahrenheit, completely destroys the chlorophyll. So if you don't want your beautiful green pastries turning into a dull brown disaster, you have to bake low and slow. Drop that temp to around 325 to 350. Also, tent it with foil halfway through baking. And here's a very cool chemistry trick. Use acidic ingredients like yogurt or cream of tartar to stabilize the color, and strictly limit alkaline ingredients like baking soda, because those actively promote browning.
Structure is also a huge factor here. Take dense, fudgy brownies versus airy layer cakes. Brownies get that amazing texture from a white chocolate fat base, which, as a bonus, perfectly balances out matcha's natural earthy bitterness. But layer cakes? They rely on whipped eggs. Because matcha has natural oils in it, if you fold it too aggressively into a sponge or chiffon cake, you will instantly destabilize those egg whites and deflate the whole batter. You've got to be incredibly gentle.
And when it's time to finish these baked goods, think really carefully about flavor pairings. A heavy dark chocolate frosting is going to completely overpower and mask that delicate umami-rich tea flavor. You want those grassy notes to shine, so always pair your matcha sponges with light, airy companions. Think whipped cream, mascarpone, or a nice sweet white chocolate ganache.
Speaking of white chocolate, for the ultimate no-bake finish, like for some amazing St. Patrick's Day truffles, our sources highlight a very specific dusting ratio. You want to sift together exactly 3 teaspoons of powdered sugar to 1/4 teaspoon of matcha powder. Rolling the truffles in this exact blend gives you a visually stunning green bite that is perfectly balanced, cutting out any overwhelming bitterness.
Section 6, the perfect final reveal, bringing it all together. We've covered the art of stenciling, the physics of liquid suspension, and the delicate culinary chemistry needed to really master this stuff. So I'm going to leave you with this. Armed with the secrets of the sift, the pH baking science, and that tactile stroke test, what masterpiece are you going to craft and reveal next? Is it going to be a perfectly stenciled morning latte, or maybe a brilliant green white chocolate truffle? The canvas is yours. Thanks for joining me for this explainer, and hey, happy dusting!